season, bring the magic of Christmas home with WESN's Joy of Christmas. Relive timeless classics from the laughter to the heartwarming moments that make the season unforgettable.
Hey, light the lamp, not the rat, light the lamp, not the rat!
Santa's coming to town!
Santa! Oh my God!
Whoa!
Oh, poor baby.
Experience the joy of WESN special productions, crafted to bring you new stories and cherished memories. This year, let WESN bring the joy of Christmas to your home.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
Catch the spirit, catch the joy.
Anchors away. May the force be with you.
Only on WESN, your content capital.
Clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell. Zing, zing, zing went my heartstrings. From the moment I saw him, I fell.
Meet Me in St. Louis is the tender, romantic story of the most popular young beauty of the early 1900s, of her crush on the boy next door, of her lovable, yet at times humorous family.
If you like me like I like you, and we like both the same, I like to say this very day, I'd like to change your name. We will dance for hoochie coochie. You will be my tootsie woopsie if you will meet me in St. Louis, Louis. Meet me at the fair.
WESN.
Hello, Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, and welcome to Breakthrough. I am joined, as per usual, by my co-host, Sean Michael Small. Hello, Sean. How are you?
Usual, but not always. Yeah.
True. All right. But how's it going?
Things are going okay. You know, Christmas comes with a special stress where I always have to try to figure out what do I buy my family who either have very simple tastes and, you know, or like anybody else, would have things that, you know, are expensive, like, you know, spend money on the car, spend money on the house, right? So it's like, there's not a lot of in-between that's easy for you to find, oh, what do I... And I guess this is why, you know, the stereotypical tie or socks for Christmas as adults turn into the gifts. Because if you need something, you're not going to be like, in June, I need a new X. I'll wait for December. I'll throw hints along the way, and I'll go for like 7 months without whatever it is I need, or 6 months, you know?
Fair. Well, I mean, it's stressful differently for me, just because of the the many weekends of shows.
Brag. Yeah, all of the music that I'm musicking. Yeah, got it. Yeah. Yes, I have invented a word. It's called musicking.
I cannot see my way.
Anyway, let us not take up too much time, because we are joined by a special guest to talk about a very heavy topic.
Yes.
So we're switching gears.
As we always do.
You know, we're going from the light to maybe not the dark, but definitely the serious with our guest. Well, I'll let you introduce him this time.
Okay, thank you. I was waiting. All right. Joining us on Zoom is host of WESN's show Psyched, Sule Joseph. Good morning. Just checking to make sure that he can hear. Oh, he's...
Check, you might be muted, Sule.
Yeah, you hear me? You guys hear me now?
Yes.
Great, lovely.
All right,
so first of all, thank you so much for joining us. I've actually wanted to have you on for quite some time now.
That is true.
But I'm glad that we're finally being able to get this done. So, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. So, in my experience as an artist myself and with my other colleagues, you know, one thing that artists tend to deal with a lot is anxiety, right? And that's sort of the fear of the unknown, the fear of failing, fear of rejection, that sort of thing.
Rejection, especially.
And I think it's always an interesting space to be in, especially as artists, because we exist in a fragile space, and we are fragile people, right? For the most part, even though some of us may pretend we are a little sensitive.
Creatives are very sensitive.
Yes. So, but I wanna help some people this morning. So, just as I know there are many technical terms that you can use, but what causes the anxiety, or what tends to happen in the mind and the body? Because I feel like once we are aware, then we can get to the whole knowing how to manage and how to cope sort of thing.
All right. So, first of all, this is the first time I'm on this program, so happy to be here. All right. I think I've been on most other programs, so happy to be on this one first time. All right. When we talk about anxiety, this is what I want people to understand. I like breaking things down into real simplistic terms so that you understand it properly. Mm-hmm. Anxiety is the fear of the unknown, the future unknown. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's the fear of the future unknown. And then the worry. So it's the fear and worry of that future unknown thing. So for example, if you have the night before an exam coming up, the fear and worry of potential failure of that exam can trigger anxiety. And of course, we recognize anxiety by the symptoms, right? It's different for everybody, but usually you feel like butterflies, you feel like something in your stomach is moving. You might experience irritable bowel syndrome. You might not be able to sleep. High levels of stress, cortisol pumping through your body. You might be cold sweating. Mm-hmm. All right? Your memory may be affected, because when you start to experience anxiety, you start to push your body into the realm of fight or flight. I don't know if you ever heard that before. Yeah. Fight, flight, or freeze. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're pushing your body into that state. Yeah, and so there are certain chemical balances and so on that occur when you go into fight or flight state.
Right.
That will affect your entire functioning. Some of the things that will happen when you're going to fight or flight is heightened or overstimulation and hyper awareness. So you become hyperly aware of everything. You become more conscious of everything. You begin to fixate on little things that you probably didn't fixate on before. And with all of that occurring in your brain, that fight or flight response occurs in your amygdala, which is your primitive brain. Mm-hmm. And while that is happening, things like memory get affected. Mm-hmm. Right? Because the brain is preparing to save your life, right? The fight or flight was a response, a brain response in the caveman days and so on, if you believe in those things, or in the garden, I guess.
Yes,
I don't know.
yes. Either one.
Right? And you, to survive, your brain will tell you if you need to run away, to fight, if to play dead, or what you need to do is literally a survival technique, right? So it's a remnant of that. And so when you put yourself into a space of worry and put yourself into a runaway mode, all your brain is focusing on is surviving at that point. So then you're trying to find memory issues pop up. Something that you thought you learned, you now can't recall and remember. It's difficult because all your brain is focusing on is surviving.
Right.
And you have convinced your brain you're in a position of a place where it's life or death.
Right. Okay.
That makes sense because in high-stress emergencies, eyewitnesses tend to be, at times, unreliable because it's hard to... Everything moves so fast, right?
So, I mean, what you're saying makes sense, kind of feeling red a little bit. But what you're saying makes sense because I shared this with my group, and I will share it on air for everybody to hear. So when I recently had a concert, and that was very much a anxiety-inducing situation because I was responsible for a lot of things, and anxiety tends to affect my dreams. So like a couple of weeks before the show, I had a dream. I had a full house, but the cast was nowhere to be found. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, where are my singers? Where are they? Like, I did message one of them in the dream, and she's like, oh, I remember again, a roti. I was like, what? And then I woke up, I'm like, Mark, get it together.
Yeah, cool. So when you woke up?
Yeah, I was not okay after that. I'm like, I need to relax myself.
Would you like me to explain that?
Please, thank you very much.
Okay, so what happens is our brains don't like to leave things unresolved, right? So even when we are not conscious of it, your brain is still working on resolving things. So what would have happened in that instance is that you would have had future worries and fears, right, of various degrees about this upcoming major event that you're going to have. Of course, you want it to be successful. And because you did not process it and treat with it, your brain processed it for you while you were sleeping.
Ooh.
So while you're sleeping, your brain started processing and going through some of the fears that you'd have that for whatever reason the concert won't come off successfully. And for some people it might be that the concert busts and people didn't come out and so on. But in your instance, the concert was well attended, but the opposite failed. Because your cast and crew didn't show up. And so that speaks to fears and anxieties that you would have about this very important program that you have. Now, it may not mean that you don't think that they may not physically show up, but it may be trusting concerns that staff may forget lines, that they may not do what they did in rehearsal, that you may have issues with past experience that may feed this fear even more, this worry, this future worry that has yet to unfold, right? Past experiences, of course, will also feed that. So it sounds like, to me, your dream is a dream of concern about your cast and crew showing up the way that you intend them to, which suggests some level of trust for me. Ooh. That you may have some issues of trust with depending on them to be on time, to provide exactly what you ask them to provide and do it how you expect them to do it.
Well, this is so that's interesting.
It puts in perspective other people who have trust issues, and it makes it more, what's the word, sympathetic now, right?
Yeah,
a little bit, right?
I know I have trust issues, right?
Oh, well, okay.
I know myself, but so that's interesting that's the take, the way this is turning into my therapy session. But it's interesting that's the take, because if it's one group of people that I can rely on, it's them. I was actually,
let's say past, though. It could be past experiences that's kind of like making this concern heightened. It doesn't have to be the current group. It could be whoever was there before in a similar situation, and now you're just overly sensitive to it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So not necessarily them.
So past experience, because we say past experience informs future behaviors, right? So past experiences with other persons and so on, even though you don't have any legitimate fear, things to worry about with this current group could still feed because of a past experience. Maybe there was an experience where you were depending on a certain person to show up and they did not. They flake on you on the day. And that haunts you, that walks around with you, and it's always constant and present in the back of your mind. So you have a crew now that is reliable, but you still have a worry and a fear. Things mightn't go quite right, and the one thing that may not happen is that the people mightn't show up.
And I like
or
to,
the car will let you down.
I like to point out punctuality with regards to creatives.
Yes.
And production crews and stuff like that. It's one of the tense things about part of it is society. But then now, you know, a show starts at a certain time, you know, most trainees in the audience will show up for that time.
Right.
They might show up maybe a few minutes too late, so we might start a few minutes too late. But it's not like, you know, like half the audience is going to show up half an hour late.
Okay.
Right?
So then, so a problem, so I guess I'm the case study. So a problem has been identified. What are some of the ways that we can, again, keeping in mind we're sensitive, we're fragile, we exist in these spaces where we actually have to observe life and tell people about life, so we kind of have to get into the minds and emotions of everybody, but also still sort of represent ourselves in our work. What are some of the ways that we can cope? Because I feel like a lot of it has to do with you mentioned fear of the unknown, and then in my case there was that whole trust issue, and so then I'm seeing certain phrases floating around like the negative self-talk, the lack of self-worth, right? So how can we cope and manage in those situations, aside from obviously going to finding a good therapist, because I do have one. But how can you in your own mind, we had this discussion on Saturday in my session, but how can we ourselves cope?
So you're actually reliving your session. Look at that. So you had 2 sessions in 1 week. All right. A paid one and a free one.
I wasn't prepared.
You brought up the example. Right?
But yes. All right. Before I answer your question and jump into it, I want to show you a real interesting paradox.
Okay.
Creatives, as you pointed out, are sensitive people who put themselves in the eye of the public for judgment. So you've actually chosen a career that is counterproductive to your sensitive nature and sensitivities.
Yes.
Because by nature, the job that you've chosen, or the vocation that you've chosen, is one where you will be scrutinized by people who, and if you do it in Trinidad, you know that Trinidad is some harsh critics, right? Trinidadians don't hold back. One slight crackle in your voice and, they swear that you crashed the Titanic, right? So it's interesting that you've chosen that career path. And most sensitive and most creatives do, while feeling a particular way. It's very sensitive. And automatically what comes to mind is Trinidad Killer. Trinidad Killer is always on social media crying and stressing because people sent him negative comments and having a meltdown every other day because people don't like his song or something. And I believe that to be genuine because it comes from a space when you create content as a creative, I feel like you put part of yourself in it. And so when people don't like it, you feel feel rejected. You feel like people are rejecting you. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And so when you're talking about coping, it's not just about coping with negative self-talk and stuff and doubt and whatever. You are talking about rejection here. This is public rejection, and public rejection on a large scale. That is more than enough to trigger anxiety and have phobias. And given simple, talk to yourself nice, listen to some music before you go on, isn't necessarily, because we can say that, but that won't necessarily address feeling rejected. Rejection is nobody likes it. No matter how much your ego is boosted, no matter how good you feel, getting rejected when you put yourself into something sucks. It feels terrible. It's like a breakup every single time, right? And not just a breakup, but a breakup with somebody you love. So it's a breakup every single time. So I actually admire creatives because you put your heart on the line every time you all go out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, for criticism, for praise. When it's praise, it's great. When it's not, it's terrible. And it's so essentially you all function in an abusive state. You all function like you function in an abusive relationship. And so,
first of all,
yeah. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's nice praise and stuff. You can't tell.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's terrible. So that and all will be building the anxiety.
So then,
is it going to go perfect today and I'll receive all the praise and plaudits? Is it not going to go well and people are going to rip my head off and I'll feel like crap? Am I going to do everything that I can do and people are still not going to like it and I still feel like crap? So, as I said, it's not as simple, straightforward as to what techniques can be used. I think people need to first recognize that they are in a contradictory space, that they are sensitive, but they are opening themselves up to the public for scrutiny.
Yeah.
That is never going to be easy. You probably need to have your therapist on speed dial.
Okay. Okay.
No, but there are things you can do. So yes, when you mention negative self-talk, you can prep yourself. You can prep yourself and say, listen, somebody is not going to like it. No matter what I do, right, somebody's not going to like it. All right? That's just what it is. And can you live with that, or you can not live with the fact that you pour all of yourself into it and somebody does not like it. And if you were in session with me, one of the things I'd say to you is, what is more important to you? Is it important that they like it, or is it more important that you feel you've given the best version of what you can give?
Okay. So
yeah, because
So what I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, so what I'm hearing you say is it's detaching yourself from certain things where some part of us wants the praise, but we don't want the rejection. So should we just sort of detach from it on a whole and say it, just as you said, if people like it, they like it, and if they don't like it, if they don't like it, they don't like it. Like how important, not necessarily detaching from life, but once it's out there and the moment has gone, then you're just like, okay, I've done my work.
So there's something I tell my clients all the time: release with love. You put effort and energy into something, you work on it, you hone it, you feel like and then you release it with love.
Okay.
Right? Whether it's a relationship, whether it's people, whether it's a task, you release it with love. Because the tighter you try to hold on to it and fuss and stress over it, is the more you corrupt that thing and make it, you corrupt it, you make it dark and not something nice and fun and light anymore. It becomes this heavy noose around your neck. And so each time that you're going to sing or perform, you become so stressed and anxiety burdened that it's no longer this liberating feeling of feeling good. It's more like this thing that is dragging you down to the bottom, and you're slowly dying inside each and every time. So it's to release it with love. Understand that you've done the best that you can do with this thing, and you're going and give it your best shot.
Right. Okay. So then,
yeah, and you have to be happy with knowing that you've done your best. So if people like it, great, that makes it even better. People who don't like it, next time hopefully that you'll tweak and they like it. But you were satisfied that you've done what you could do.
This, I think, is because we've had this discussion the last episode where process versus the result, and with few exceptions, I would argue process matters more than the result, because there's so many things that could go into the result, but you can't expect a good outcome if you have a inconsistent or consistently bad process. And in this case, I think a lot of successful artists, what you just said there, that seems to be what they practice, whereas, and in part, why that makes sense to me is it's also being true to the art. Look, I'm going to do the best job I can at doing the art that I do, and if people like it, they like it. But if I try to change to please them, at some point it's no longer art, it's commercial, whatever, right? Generic commercial, mass produced, whatever, and then it's no longer art. And then if I want to make money, will my psychology survive the attempt to make money? I guess it would be the next question. And that's essentially what I think what you're telling me, because a lot of the most successful artists, they're successful over time because they're an artist, so they stick to their vision and they may reinvent themselves, but it's still within a certain philosophy, so that no matter what, their fans could always go back to them because they are who they are, and they offer that unique spark through their work that comes from them, as opposed to, well, I try to please everybody and I end up pleasing no one.
Right.
Well, okay, so I want to use this person as an example. Bunji Garlin. The artist Bunji was when Bunji first started singing Raga Soca. It's not the artist who Bunji is today.
Right.
Could we agree on that?
I want to have an opinion.
Yes. I recognize where you're going. So yes, I can.
Yeah, he's not the same artist. Yeah. He started with this Raga Soca style. He sang a particular type of music. And I will admit, as a Bunji fan, that I do miss some of those more graphic lyrics, right? But he has grown to a space where his music is more uplifting. There's more of an uplifting message to it, and you could have seen that in the evolution of the person.
Right.
So Bunji didn't jump up one day and change and become somebody, try to pander to the crowd. There was an evolution. So it's not that you can't change. I think when you grow, when there's a natural growth, a genuine growth, your tribe will follow you and grow with you.
Yeah.
You will always have, you'll always have a tribe of people who will be following you because they're following your growth. Yes. They will witness and see how you've moved from infancy into whatever manifestation next is your next step from your caterpillar to your chrysalis to becoming either your moth or your butterfly or whatever that you hope to become, right? Because it's not stagnant. Of course, there'll be some measure of change. Some might be less drastic than others. But you have to stay true to your art because you first have to be passionate about it. Remember, you're putting part of yourself in it. And so if you make it about the result, of course it'll have anxiety because you're focusing on the result and not the process and not putting part of yourself in it. So then, you're focusing on the potential rejection as opposed to creating. You are adding something to the universe, regardless of whether other people totally get it or not. There's something beautiful in that, in creation. You are a creationist.
Ooh, I like that word. I'm a creationist. Yes. So, essentially, and I think it's something that I've said before, there's a difference between growth, there's a difference between change through growth, and then change to please others that also results in you sort of betraying yourself.
I think somebody on the show, somebody should said it best, where, something, I can't remember, you might remember the exact phrase, and when you're chasing a career.
Yeah, the difference between chasing and building a career.
Yeah.
If you're chasing, that means you're running it down, and it's running away from you, as opposed to building one that's very authentic to yourself, and staying in that artistic.
And also, if you're chasing it, if you're trying to chase a trend, at some point you could probably get it wrong.
Yes.
Whereas if you're doing your art, it's not about the trend.
Right.
Right? So that's secondary to you. But if you just keep chasing trends, at some point, look at how many commercial artists now. I mean, let's just say, I think Drake did that. And now he's reached a point where he can't chase trends so easily anymore, basically. Whereas Kendrick, he just did him.
Well, I have a friend of mine that always said, we do anything that is chase is rum. But anyway, so...
Wow. I feel like there's so much to unpack that was just said there therapy-wise, but I'll leave it alone.
So then we will talk after. We will talk after. I appreciate this 30-minute therapy session. It was greatly appreciated. But we have to have you on some more because there's a lot more to talk about. But this was really a really great conversation. And I'm really happy that you're able to come on. We will stay in touch all of the time. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. In closing, I'll just say quickly that creatives are pioneers. Remember, as a creative, you are creating something new that probably didn't exist or building on something that existed already. So you're always cutting new lawn, new grass, cutting new tracks, developing new territory. That is not an easy thing to do. Being to the forefront of anything is never the easiest. You're the first to take licks, the first to get wet, the first, anything dangerous, you're the first one facing that. It takes it takes a special type of person to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So despite actually experiencing anxiety and experiencing those things, don't beat yourself up too much. You're a lot greater than you give yourself credit for.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sule.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
sure there's a lot of the audience that will very much be grateful for those words.
Yes, thank you so much. Trinidad and Tobago, we will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Barbie,
Hot Wheels, Gel Blasters, Ride-ons,
Leapfrog,
Nerf, bicycles and tricycles.
Greco, and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces Flagship, McBean, Movie Town, Port of Spain,
Eastgate Mall, and M6 Plaza Endeavour.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private healthcare affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
bang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell. Zing, zing, zing went my heartstrings. From the moment I saw him, I fell.
Meet Me in St. Louis is the tender, romantic story of the most popular young beauty of the early 1900s, of her crush on the boy next door. Of her lovable, yet at times humorous family.
If you like me like I like you, and we like both the same, I like to say this very game. I'd like to change your name. We will dance for hoochie coochie. You will be my tootsie woopsie. If you will meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair.
And welcome back to Breakthrough Trinidad and Tobago. I am your host, Mark Anthony Peter. I'm grateful for Sule Joseph for joining us for that first half of the segment. But, again, I forgot. Sean is still with me.
Yes, I am. We've gone through this before. You see, I remember that last time when I said he almost forgot my name? Or he forgot it? You see? It happens.
Sometimes, listen, the 3, 2, 1 in my ear gets very overwhelming.
Listen,
okay?
I forgive you, Mark, because I have a confession to make.
What's that?
I didn't go to see his concert. I didn't go. But to be fair to me, I blanked like real people that weekend. So you wasn't the only one I blanked.
I feel so special.
And this weekend too, I also blanked people this weekend. I was like, Christmas too stressful.
Wow.
You'll need to slow down with all of these invitations and things. Listen, I am making up for all of the time I lost when I was younger, doing all the things for Christmas. All the concerts and rehearsals, right?
You're not that old.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for that. You know?
Like, talking like a grandpa.
That's right. I'm not that old, damn it. Let's not get twisted.
Anyway,
so people want to call me old man. Not my co-workers, most of them older than me. But some people on the outside want to call me old. Nah, man. Okay. Nah, 40 is the new 20.
Your knees and back begs to differ.
I have bad knees in my 20s. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, so nothing has changed.
Same thing with the back. All of my old man symptoms have been with me since like late teens or even early teens. So I don't know, just genetics, right? You can't have everything. You can't be smart and an athlete,
You are weak.
That's one thing. Like I always thought, like, what would I do if I was like drafted in the military and had to go off to war? And then the immediate thought is, well, I probably won't get very far because physically I probably won't be able to keep up. It's just a thing.
Fair. No, you know what? Life has its way of working itself out.
Life finds a balance.
Right. But what did you think about the conversation that we sort of just had, and it kind of ties into the next subject a little bit?
As I was saying, it actually is very in line with what other guests have said from the position as artists and educators in art forms and leaders in artistic communities and industries and groups of what they have said with regards to, and the conversation that we said yesterday when I kind of stretched it more general, but you were thinking in part to the art where, the importance of the process.
Yeah.
And ironically, I guess, you yourself probably didn't realize why, as Sule said, when you harp on the result, what are you going to do? You're going to stress over the potential failures, right? Because ironically, no sane, reasonable person is going to be overly harping on, yes, but what if it does succeed and I'll just be rich overnight? Like, delusional people to some extent might do that, or people that are very positive and hopeful. Those people, if it doesn't work out, they'll kind of be fine because that's their nature. But people who, you come into this field and you think, oh, I will be the next superstar. And like, even if you're in New York City or Los Angeles, it doesn't work that way. There are countless people being waiters and coffee baristas with hopes and dreams to do that. And one of the things that I remember at a seminar here that was done in one of the Port of Spain hotels, right, in a conference room in Port of Spain hotel, was that, look, with regards to music at least, you could buy songs, you could buy lyrics, somebody could write it for you, right? Happens all the time. You know, you could get production, right? You could do cosmetic surgery or get makeup or styling, right? But to them, the thing that you could not do was get a unique voice. And that comes down to the individual talents of the artist, right? How do you express yourself? What you sound like, and that's with regards to singing. Now, with regards to acting, there's one show on one of the American stations, Chicago PD. The reason why I bring it up, there's this one actor in particular that joined the show. And it's very interesting how, if I was to act like how he acts, I would look like I'm doing nothing.
Okay.
Because he is so minimalistic in what he does. But because of a combination of his sense of timing, his sense of proportion, his sense of emotion, and how his face expresses it, it's like the heaviest look, like he's looking into your soul just by looking into you.
So even just so as a student who's probably like watching people and how they do things, it's not necessarily the result of what you see at face value. But it's their internal, getting to know what their internal process is to get that result. Because I would even say, even as conductors, and we sort of talking about promoting your art, which also includes promoting you, right? Yourself. And so when a student is sort of learning from, let's say I'm going to use conducting as an example, right? If you're learning from a conductor, there's one thing to watch and then mimic, and then if you watch and then mimic without knowing the meat behind it, the meat behind the matter, you look crazy.
Because part of it is like, you're going to try and do Michael Jackson. Well, it's so distinct, you'll just look like you're copying Michael Jackson. Right? Now, there's a fine line between inspiration and copying. Right? And there's a fine line between learning from and just outright stealing.
So yes. So one of the factors that I wanted to bring up, I'm glad I brought up conducting. So if, let's say, the person that you admire all the time, but they're not the same stature as you. So yes, their gestures would look big to you. But if you're shorter and you do big gestures to mimic them, you would just look like you're doing big gestures for no reason, right? And then the ensemble, the orchestra, the choir in front of you kind of gets confused. So you kind of have to, so it's about what you want to deliver and how you could deliver it with your own body, with your own self. Because let's do the flip side. Let's say you admire a male conductor, and then you're as a female conductor, then you're trying to, be like that. And I've seen conductors on Instagram and social media, especially female. There's a great female conductor. I can't remember her name, but she's like, no, you don't have to look like them. You don't have to look. She said, we as females, we have a very innate way of doing it that is highly effective that we cannot copy or mimic.
You see, and this is the other thing, because not to venture too far into politics, I'm trying to stay out of it, but the whole point of having male-female perspective and male-female difference is that there is difference. From body size to also emotional response, mindset, perspective, and approach. It's going to be different. And that's fine. Because at the end of the day, if every conductor was like a 6'2" male that was either had weighed so much, had the same style of hair, had the same arm length or whatever, like at some point it would just be a robot. And then why do we need a conductor? We just pre-program the robot, let the robot do the thing. But the whole point of artistry is to allow for individual interpretation. And part of that is, hey, when John Williams conducts Star Wars orchestral music. It's going to be different if somebody else does it. And that's the point, because, again, there's a fine line between inspiration and copying.
Yes, because there's oh my gosh, what is his name? The guy who created Family Guy. What is his name?
MacFarlane.
Right, Seth MacFarlane. He was in an interview. For people who don't know, he has an amazing voice. Like, he can sing. He did an album was featured on one of Barbara Streisand's album with her.
It's something about the American speaking voice placement that makes it, I think, really good for singing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they speak brighter, so they speak in their sort of singing
Yes,
placement.
doesn't work so well for the woman though. As opposed
Sometimes.
to our local woman, I find it's really
and he was saying, speaking of inspiration and copying, you can hear that there's inspiration in his voice from Frank Sinatra. He said it before.
Right.
He said there's a way that Frank Sinatra used to close his vowels and still be resonant. So there are certain stylistic things.
You can hear it when he speaks.
Yes. So there are certain stylistic things that he sort of, and in promoting himself and promoting his art and how he presents himself on a stage or on an audio, there's him inspired by certain things from other people.
And meanwhile, and the thing is with conducting, singing, being a musician, anything that is an artist that requires physical activity, it's going to be slightly different to say a visual artist that does painting or video editing or directing or whatever, right? But let's just go with male-female differences as well. Like wardrobe.
Right.
How not just, okay, well, a man's wardrobe is different to a female wardrobe, but then depending on culture, they will respond to different things better, different things differently, right? Of course, there will always be certain standards for sex appeal on the male side and on the woman's side. Sometimes it maybe pushes the boundary too far. Who can get away with what? Sometimes they might. But at the end of the day...
And then functionality as well.
Right, but at the end of the day, like, as artists, you know, women generally, unless wanting to be creative or make a statement, are going to dress like women. Men are going to dress like men.
They're going to do it appropriately for their own...
There are times when you go away from that, but usually it's for a purpose, right? Whatever the purpose might be.
Right.
Or it could be a personal choice, but then it's still like... There's some sort of meaning behind it, whether it's personal identity or creative choice or whatever.
I will say a lot of it does have, as being in those roles and speaking to people, it really comes down to function more than the actual fashion.
Well, locally especially.
Well, yeah, but I've seen international people do it.
Right,
they're like, I can't wear, if I'm a conductor, I can't wear a jacket that's too tight.
Tight, yes.
Right, so I can't, the same jacket that I will go out to dinner with is not the same jacket that I will conduct with because I need arm space and stuff like that. The same sort of dress that someone may wear is very specific to the type of repertoire they're going to sing, right? Because they can't wear anything too tight. They need to be able to function first.
Yeah, but also
before they think about how they look.
If you're doing a certain dramatic piece, you can't have a casual outfit on.
Well,
if you're doing a contemporary pop song, you're not gonna have a Phantom of the Opera costume on.
Right. Yes.
You know, you're not gonna be wearing a Dracula costume and then want to go and sing something from Bee Gees. Like unless it's Halloween, doesn't make sense. And all of these things matter to an artist. But straying a little bit from the topic at this point.
But I kind of wanted to bring it back. So one of the things that I saw, and this is why it kind of ties in greatly with the conversation we just had with Sule, there's a post I saw about, the 10 notes for the person promoting their art.
Yes.
Right? And when we had our guest, Kemba on, who a radio host and stuff like that, she said, I know artists don't like to hear this, but you are your brand on some level.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So they just basically confirmed, when we put in the work, we are putting a piece of ourselves in the work.
Yes.
Right? So we are representing ourselves. And one of the notes said, when you promote your creations, you are not being annoying, you are being generous. Now that's one of the things that at least I think about all of the time, because so even when I'm like editing video, editing audio, making sure, like I sometimes get sick of of interacting with it so much.
Yes.
Because I'm like, and then at the end of the process, I'm like, do I even want to put this?
I commit one of the greatest sins of all media. I do not watch myself because I can't. Period. I refuse. I never will. Ever.
But the whole But the whole idea of of not being annoying, and the fact that they flip the annoying word to you are being generous with your art is very...
I said this off air. For me personally, it's hard to be all grand and flashy when I'm singing because I feel very self-conscious about it, right? And I think that is the natural state of people who are not very much extroverts.
Yeah.
They are not natural in the spotlight.
Right.
Right? So then now, by extension, when it comes time to promote yourself, it seems very obnoxious and presumptuous to promote yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And then now, one of the other things that's weird, we have to realize two things. One, a celebrity in the States that has a big company behind them, a big team, age management team, etc., half of the time or more, the promotion is not going to be done by them.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you don't literally see, say, Miley Cyrus literally go to every single music store to personally tell everybody to buy her single or whatever, right? Or J.K. Rowling did not go to every bookstore in the United Kingdom to promote Harry Potter and has not had to send personal messages or whatever, right?
Maybe at the beginning.
To some extent, you're involved, but it's not just centered solely on you. There will be advertisements and marketing teams
when you're
and
first starting off,
promotions.
as they say, you have to be the pavement.
But then also, at some point, when you go for an interview, the show host is marketing you, and you're just answering questions, as opposed to you having to present yourself mononymously, if that makes sense, right?
We've experienced this because I always sympathize with I empathize with the artists that we've had on for these 2 seasons, because I try to ask specific questions, because the open-ended tell us about yourself is a problem for us sometimes, because
if you don't know, if you're not prepared.
If you're not prepared, you know? Because, again, coming back to the whole functionality thing, what do you want to know? That sort of thing. What do I have to wear? What do I have to sing?
That's the other thing. A lot of artists locally, outside of a few exceptions, you know, everybody is at a semi-professional, amateur, and maybe barely professional level, right? Of course, there are some industry stalwarts who have really made it big, etc., right? Mainly around the soca industry. In the past, it would be alongside calypsonians, but I wouldn't say so now anymore, right? And of course, there are some rock bands and other individual musicians who are like semi-professional to maybe professional, right?
Okay.
But my point is, they're not like, when you're smaller and you have to do it yourself, part of the imposter syndrome is, well, if I was Michael Jackson, who is going to criticize him for saying, buy my album, right? Who's going to criticize Scarlett Johansson to say, watch my movie, right? Whereas now, if you and I did a film,
watch the film, guys.
Please. You know, like, we'll be begging, right? But the flip side is this, and I think this is why they say it's generosity, especially here. Especially here. How many times do events happen and most of the public has no clue?
Yeah.
So part of it is that for creatives locally, you kind of need to get out of your comfort zone, not stress about the result, but think about the process. And the process is, I am doing a thing and I need to get the word out.
Well, this comes back to the next note. When you promote your art, you will feel cringe.
Yep.
You cannot avoid feeling cringe.
Yep.
You are not exempt from feeling cringe. Don't try to circumvent it. Lean into it.
To some extent, yes. You can't take it too far. I've had people be a little too much like used car salesmen in different ways in retail and promotion.
Yeah.
You can't take it too far. But at the same time, it's like, well, I kind of know if someone is promoting something, I know you're here to promote it. So I'm not going to like hold that against you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once you're professional...
And the cringy part is like when you have to repeatedly promote it.
Yes, but if you're effective, you will not make the mistake of repeating it to the same person.
Because honestly, for me, I'm just like, you want 2 tickets to my show? And then I'm like, no, if I want to avoid the results of what I dreamed of, which very ironic, but I'll have that discussion with my people afterwards. But it's like, do you want to... That whole interaction, I remember talking about another artist, talking to another artist about this, and they're like, yeah, that's why I don't produce as many shows anymore, because I can't take that. I can't take that rejection.
No, but
because we just want to be. Some of us, we just want to be like, here's the art, here's the show. Come to it, please.
You know, right? And I understand
as
that.
opposed to, hey,
you see,
let me tell you why
ironically,
you need to come to my show.
Ironically, that's not too dissimilar to TV. That's not too dissimilar to social media content, YouTube and the like. Whereas a lot of YouTubers, what is the story? With very few exceptions, they're trudging along, plugging in the work, and then they blew up. But only after, like, they showed a track record of work. Right. I think in part because when you have a track record of work, whether you're a commentator on television, a musician, a singer, or whatever, even if you spend 10 years, it doesn't work out like this for everybody. But the point is, if you have a track record, once you get to a certain point, regardless of how popular you were throughout that time, people still have to acknowledge the fact that you put in the work.
Yeah.
And you know what you're talking about, right? And that's where some speakers have authority to speak on things, some activists have authority to speak on things as opposed to fly-by-night Johnny-come-latelys, right? Some artists have the authority to say, I am an artist. Right. So when I promote myself as an artist, I'm not being presumptuous. It's true, right? And I'm putting myself out there for you.
So then I have a question, because we've spoken about process and result. Is the process for the artist and the result for the audience?
No, but the process is still how you engage everybody.
Right. But should the attachment... I don't know if I'm phrasing this well.
No, yes, the audience will not really know the process.
Right.
They could only judge you by the results, unfortunately. But that's also one of the interesting things about modern media. To some extent, it existed before. You know, the E! True Hollywood Story and VH1 had their own series and whatever, and all the interviews and stuff that gives you behind the scenes when Busta Rhymes and Eminem talked about how when they did their song together, right? And how, you know, Eminem came and he did like 50-something bars, and Busta had to take his I think it was 212s or 216s. He had to come back with like a 60-bar verse, and it became an epic song that wasn't so commercially viable anymore because it's like 5 minutes long, but it was an epic song to fans of the genre, right?
And then, so then there's a note that says you don't need to have something for sale to promote yourself as an artist.
Well, right. So at this point, it was no longer a commercial project, I think.
Right.
But the key point is the process was revealed to the audience, and now for something where the results, the commercial success might not be quite as high, right? Because when you think about it, some of the most commercially successful songs had collaborations, and they were great songs that were commercially successful, but artistically they were like, right? Whereas now, half of what Eminem does now, and many singer-songwriters, Sting ain't trying to top no charts. He's like, I just want to do what I want to do, right?
And I think you brought up this point, and it's actually ironic, a conversation I was having with some people last night. Somebody brought up the fact that, you know, there are people who do Christmas well, like contemporary, and then there are people who try to copy people who've done Christmas well, right? So
I don't know if I said that, but
no, it wasn't me. So people who are able to authentically be them and put out something that's very unique, that does not copy Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You," but is within them own space as artists.
This is where the internet comes in, because it adds more platforms for this. Interviews used to do this, but the point is, by peeling back the curtain and showing out the process, now there is a certain commercial appeal for things that would have been art on a level out of reach to the casual observer. Right? And it's the same thing for any kind of art form. So the process in the past, traditionally, was out of reach of the consumer, but not anymore. And now it all depends. And revealing your process of creating is also a decision within the process of promoting. Right? And all of it now depends on what are you willing to throw out there. How much of yourself are you willing to expose, right? Because I find in K-pop, there are some groups that I am fans of, in part, not just because of music, which I do find interesting, modern commercial choices for music. It's still semi-commercial, but in a weird way not, right? But also, they do a lot of in-house content to reveal the personalities of their...
And people connect with the...
And people connect with them. And, they understand the artist more. So they show empathy.
Yes.
Right?
So it brings it back. It brings it down from a product to a human being.
Because if you're a commercial product and everything is supposed to be bright and shiny, when you do crack with the high notes, it's easy to criticize. But when you're a human and an artist who shows their vulnerable side,
they say yes, and that's all it. That's all part of the process of promoting yourself, right? Trinidad and Tobago, it was a lovely episode. It was a great episode. And Sule, you will probably hear from me soon. That was
a fun conversation, huh?
I will update you all. Oh, I have an idea. We'll talk about this off air. Anyway, so Trinidad and Tobago, thank you so much for joining us. Mark Anthony Peter, Sean Michael Small. See, I remembered his name this time. All right. We will be going now, and you will see us next week, Monday. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture.